Hi again. Walter Rauschenbusch, page 362, Christianity and the Social Crisis, his last chapter, What to Do. As things are, a minister will have to make a conscious effort if he is to be fair to the poor. The daily press, public opinion, custom, literature, orthodox economic science, and nearly all the forces which shape thought are on the side of things as they are. Unless a minister consciously puts himself into contact with the working classes by attending their meetings and reading their literature, he will assume that he is judging fairly, whereas he has never heard more than one side. If he attends the dinners of the Chamber of Commerce, he must take socialist street meetings as an antidote. Socialism has fully as much claim on his intellect as Robert Browning. Browning, by the way, kind of unknown today, but one of the most famous poets in the world when Rauschenbusch was around. If a man follows the mind of Jesus Christ in his judgments, he will have to appear partial in a social world which is by no means built on a line with the mind of Christ. It is a different matter entirely for a minister to follow the mind of a political party and make himself liable to the charge of partisanship. It may happen at long intervals in the history of a nation that a political party so thoroughly embodies the righteous instincts of the nation that its cause is almost identified with the triumph of justice. In such a juncture, a minister may wisely decide that he must throw his influence publicly with that party and risk a loss of influence in other directions. But it is questionable if that situation has confronted ministers in our country these many years. A man may well doubt if the machinery of our great parties has ground out social progress or ground it up, and whether party loyalty has propagated patriotism or poisoned it. A minister has no business to be the megaphone of a political party and its catchwords. He should rather be the master of politics by creating the issues which parties will have to espouse. Questions are usually discussed a long time before they become political issues. Old political parties are controlled by conservative forces and will take up progressive measures only when it is necessary to retain their followers or outbid another party. The time for the pulpit to do its best work is before a question is torn to tatters on the platform. A Christian preacher should have the prophetic insight which discerns and champions the right before others see it. If he has honestly done that, he can afford to be silent when the practical men grumblingly enter to finish up the job which he has helped to lay out for them. Hail to the pioneers. Their early work is the formative work. Embodying a moral conviction in law is the last stage of a moral propaganda. Laws do not create moral convictions. They merely recognize and enforce them. Moreover, there are important political questions which never become party issues. The eradication of tuberculosis, for instance, is a public task for the next decade. This is 1907. But the creation of public sanitariums for the infected and the enforcement of sanitary regulations for the prevention of the disease will never become a party question. Strong pressure will be brought to bear on legislators and public officials to protect the financial interests of tenement house owners who propagate tuberculosis by their death traps. But no party will dare openly to champion their cause. If the pulpit creates the public sentiment which will insist on the enactment and enforcement of such laws and ordinances, it will not be meddling with party politics. One of the most serious charges that can be raised against preaching on social questions is that it is unreligious. It is the business of a preacher to connect all that he thinks and says with the mind and will of God, to give the religious interpretation to all human relations and questions, and to infuse the divine sympathy and passion into all moral discussions. If he fails in that, he is to that extent not a minister of religion. It is the highest test of his influence if his pastoral visits, his chance conversations, and his pulpit teachings somehow help men and women to take the high and divine view of their past and their future, of their joys and their sorrows, of their labors and their pleasures. That test is justly applied to his teachings on social questions too. Others can talk from the point of view of economic and political expediency. Does the minister talk from the point of view of the eternally true and right? That's the question. We'll put in a link to Jacques Ellul, the subversion of Christianity, and Jacques Ellul's analysis of the time of Constantine and beyond, when Christianity became something else vis-a-vis the powers of this world.